Detroit Pistons get their first win of the season against the Philadelphia 76ers due to the help of all of their veterans who showed up, especially in the fourth quarter of this game. We'll break down this entire game and how the Pistons were able to secure their first win of the season in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Kook Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kook Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I also want to let you guys know to please subscribe to the new Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. You can find it over on LockedOnDaily.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also scan the QR code at the bottom, I believe bottom right over here. I believe it's bottom right. You can scan that and it will take you to the link tree where you can find the newsletter as well. If that's easier for you, I'll also put it in the description down below for you as well. Also, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. The Detroit Pistons found a way to get their first win of the season against the Philadelphia 76ers. And yes, Philly did not have Joel Embiid. They did not have Paul George. That may be true, but that does not matter. For a team like the Detroit Pistons, who need to get any win possible, it does not matter. Also, Philly just had a pretty nice win the game before this one, so I don't want to give them all the excuses. It was pretty good to see, I would say, that the Pistons had a pretty large lead in the third quarter. It wasn't one of those where like Philly is like super close to a 2-point game with a team that's really banged up. The Pistons really kind of put the foot on the gas in the second half in the third quarter to really extend the lead against the Philadelphia 76ers. So, good win for the Pistons. They get on the board in the win column. That's all that mattered. However, I thought what was even more telling about this game, what was even more important about this game, was in the fourth quarter, with around 9 minutes left in the game, 8 minutes left in the game, the Philadelphia 76ers cut the lead to 10. They went on a 9-0 run, and it immediately started to look like, oh, God, man, no way. It's about to happen again. The Pistons were just up by 20. They were just up by 18, and they're about to do it again. There's no way. And as soon as that happened, for the first time all season, and this is what I've been coming on the podcast and talking about, for the first time all season, the Detroit Pistons veterans came through for this young team, for these young players, came through and closed the game out for them. That's what was needed in the first 4 games. If their veterans performed like this in the first 4 games, the Pistons would have had at least one more win. They need these veterans that they brought into Detroit to help close games for this extremely young team, break that dam that they finally broke. Break the dam of you can't close out in the fourth quarter. You can't win the game in the fourth quarter. They were met with that challenge here in this fourth quarter. And thanks to the vets, they were finally able to push through that mental hurdle. And I really am interested to see how they look moving forward now in the fourth quarter, now that they finally got the mental block of, we just can't close one out. This is going to be the same thing again. We just can't win this fourth quarter. We're going to lose the game. It's just going to keep happening over and over. They're finally able to break it, and I'm interested to see if that has a big impact on their mental in future games in the fourth quarter. To go ahead and show you guys just how much or how big of a deal, how well the Pistons veterans played in that fourth quarter. The Pistons scored 20 points in that fourth quarter. Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. combined for 16 of those 20 points. Tobias Harris started off the game 1 of 6. He finished the game 8 of 18. He played really well in the second half for the Detroit Pistons. Wasn't just taking threes, was taking a lot of shots around the rim. Got a nice posterizer dunk, which had Cade Cunningham losing his mind. And Tim Hardaway Jr. hit 5 of 7 of his 3-point attempts. And he hit, I believe, 2 of them in the fourth quarter as well. Those guys came out and showed up in the fourth quarter, and that's why I gave Tobias Harris the kudos player of the game. He's returned to Philadelphia. He was getting booed the entire game. Anytime he touched the ball, booed. Anytime he missed a shot, booed. Anything. He was booed literally nonstop. And for him to start off 1 of 6, 0 of 3 from deep, and looked like he's going down another tough game to start the year. He snaps out of it the second half, comes through in the fourth quarter, and hits some big-time shots for the Detroit Pistons. Once Philadelphia cut it to a 10-point lead, Tobias hit a pull-up shot to put it to 12. He hit a layup to put it to 4, or to put it up to 14. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. hit a 3 to make it 15. So, because Philly came down and hit a 3 of themselves, and then right back down, Tim Hardaway Jr. hit a 3 himself. So, the veterans came up and closed this game out big time. And this is what the Pistons have needed. If their veterans can show up, it changes things for them. And I want to I did tweet this out, but I want to read you guys what I tweeted out earlier. This was from Dan Pavel of Bleacher Report. First of all, thank you for shouting us out over on Bleacher Report. But he wrote in his article a few days ago, the title of it was One Overreaction to Each Team. And the reaction for the Detroit Pistons was they should only play 3 quarters. A witty title, but the point that he goes on to talk about is how the Pistons have played within the fourth quarter. And here are some numbers that really back up what I've done on the film breakdowns over on my personal YouTube channel at Kook, and also what we've talked about every podcast since the season opener. I just want to read this to you guys. He says, quote, "If you go back and watch as many possessions as your stomach can stand, you'll see Detroit is striking out on a quality opportunities. Players aren't generating a ton of rim pressure, but they are, at large, chiseling out open jumpers." He goes on to say that there's only 6 teams taking more wide open jumpers than the Detroit Pistons in the fourth quarter. I'm going to say it one more time. There are only 6 NBA teams that are taking more wide open jumpers than the Detroit Pistons in the fourth quarter. He goes on to talk about how their effective field goal percentage on those shots is 50%, which is toward the bottom of the entire NBA. He goes on to talk about how they're shooting in the restricted area. But my overall point is, these numbers that he brought out, the Detroit Pistons have been generating open shots in the... I've tried to tell you guys, I've broken down the film over my channel. This isn't just talking. I pull out the tape and I show you guys the tape. The Pistons have been getting open corner threes all the time in the fourth quarter. He talked about earlier in this article as well, about how the Pistons are one of the highest generating at corner threes in the fourth quarter as well. So they're getting open shots. They're getting the best shots that they want. They're getting their shooters the good shots. They just haven't been able to hit them in the fourth quarter. That's just what it has been. And in this game, Tobias Harris showed up. Tim Hardaway Jr. continues to show up. To be honest, Tim Hardaway Jr., look, I know there was a lot of people trolling him after his preseason performance. And obviously in the offseason when they traded a young prospect, a young 3-and-D type prospect in Quinn Grimes after just trading Bojan for him, obviously that was going to ruffle quite a bit of feathers in the Pistons community. I'll put my hand up. I was one of the people who was not happy about this trade. However, since the season started, Tim Hardaway Jr. has been much better than I expected. It's not like he's been a great defender. That's not what I'm talking about. But offensively, what you've asked him to do, what you wanted him to do, he has done that. He has gotten up a volume of threes. He's gotten up a high volume of threes, I should say. And he's making them at a high clip. He's being extremely aggressive. He's coming out with a quick shot, a quick trigger, which forces defenses to respect him and give him that type of gravity. He's been exactly what the Pistons have wanted. I don't know how you could have expected or wanted Tim Hardaway Jr. to play even better than he has so far to start the year for the Detroit Pistons. And to go even further with their veterans, Tim Hardaway Jr. had 16 points in this game. Tobias Harris had 18 points in this game. That's 34. Malik Beasley had 11 points in this game. That's 45 points. They got 45 points out of their 3 main vets. That's what you want. Would you like to see Malik Beasley shoot maybe a little better than 4 of 11 from the field, 3 of 10 from deep? Sure, but that's not... He still was able to pitch in 11 points. He got up 10 threes, which again, simply being able to get up that amount of threes, it provides a level of gravity on the floor when you have guys who are going to just let it rip. And they're respected shooters like a Malik Beasley, like a Tim Hardaway Jr. It changes the spacing on the floor. So their 3 veterans showed up and showed out, specifically Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. They balled out, and they were the main reason why the Pistons were able to shut the door on the Sixers. They were playing well as a team before this. They had a big lead. Cade Cunningham was playing well. Jaden Ivey was playing well. But once the fourth quarter started, both of them had a share of turnovers. Both of them missed some shots. But it was Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tobias Harris who came through for this young team. And that's exactly what they've needed. That's exactly what this young team has been asking for. And I'll say it again, I think with this mental block finally down, that they finally have pushed and closed the door in the fourth quarter on a team when they're trying to make a run, thanks to their veterans. I wonder if this really does a big thing for the mental block in their head, and they start to play better and more freely in the fourth quarter. You start to see guys play a little better. You start to see guys make a little bit more shots. You start to see the guys not turn the ball over as much. So this is what you wanted from your vets when you acquired them. This is what the Pistons wanted. This is what Trajan was expecting. And honestly, I know that the 4 games were tough to watch, but I was about to say it took till Game 5, but Game 5 of 82 games really isn't that long to wait. Like, would you have liked to see it happen in the first 4 games? Absolutely. It should have happened. But waiting until Game 5 wasn't like they waited until Game 23 to finally do something. It's the 5th game of the year. So, relatively early in the season, they showed up, did their thing, and helped the Pistons get their first win against the Philadelphia 76ers. A revenge game for Tobias Harris that might have played a big part in why I gave him the kudos player of the game. But let me know in the comment section down below how you guys feel about this game, how you guys feel about the Pistons veterans showing up and showing out for them in the fourth quarter. Let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at KukaHill. When we come back, I want to discuss how important Stu has been for the Detroit Pistons and why they really probably need to consider straight up closing with him in the fourth quarter for the foreseeable future. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that's FanDuel.com. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I want to shout out to our Locked On Pistons newsletter. Go subscribe to that. You get a Locked On daily newsletter from the Pistons, from Locked On Pistons, from myself, along with your Locked On Pistons daily podcast. Along with that, go ahead and click, if you're watching this on YouTube, scan this QR code. If you're not watching on YouTube, go in the description below. We have an insiders program where if you don't have Twitter, if you don't have social media, you will get a text from me one-on-one anytime there's any Piston rumors, any Piston news, anything I'm hearing, any Pistons content that I put out, whether it be on my personal YouTube, on Locked On Pistons, on Twitter. So whatever content I put out, you'll get a text right to your phone instantly when it comes out. Any news, anything. I'm going to be your personal insider for the Detroit Pistons, so you don't need to have social media. So if you want to be a part of that, you can text the number on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. You can also hit the description down below, hit the link, and subscribe over there. And you also can get to know me a little bit more, and I can get to know you guys a little bit more. You can talk to me and text me one-on-one about anything. So, fun little thing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys want to participate, text the number 313-914-6528, or you can go to the description down below and click that link. So, Isaiah Stewart has not, I don't think he's had the best offensive start to the season, even though in the fourth quarter of this game, he had one of probably, I don't want to say the biggest play of the night, most important play of the night, but it was one of them. It was one of the more important plays of the night. You got an offensive rebound off of, I forget who missed the shot, but someone missed the shot. It might have been Cade's, Cade's post fadeaway over the middle of the key, I think it was. Either way, Isaiah Stewart gets the offensive rebound in traffic. I think last year he goes up with this. I think if Jalen Duren gets this last year, they're going up with this. But this year, Isaiah Stewart gets the offensive rebound, immediately kicks it to a wide open THJ in the right corner. THJ hits that three. Philadelphia calls timeout, and Isaiah Stewart runs down to the other end of the floor, banging his chest, losing his mind, because it was a tremendous play. He should celebrate all he wants, because that was a big-time play to really quiet down the momentum for Philadelphia. And there's so many bigs that once they get an offensive rebound, they believe, okay, well, I'm the one who got this extra possession. I get to go back up with it. And while I can understand that mindset, to be honest, like as someone who's played basketball their whole lives, I can understand that mindset. However, it's not always the smartest mindset. And the smartest players get the best shot each possession. And Isaiah Stewart did that, and that was a big time play from Isaiah Stewart. But I don't want to talk about his offense. Because I do think, also, actually, let me read you guys this quote from JB. I just now thought about this. I completely forgot about this quote. If I can't get the quote up in time, I'll just give you guys a summarize it. My goodness, if I could talk today. Summarize what he said. It looks like it's going to take forever to load. My PC's going slow as hell today. I don't know what's going on with that. But either way, someone asked JB Bickerstaff about why is Isaiah Stewart rolling to the rim instead of spacing out and taking more threes. And he said, that's all on me. That's all my fault. I've been telling him to roll to the rim a little bit more. I've been telling him to roll to the basket every time. I've been telling him not to worry about spacing out as much. That's on me. We'll try to get him more looks moving forward. That's basically what he said. I don't want to spend too much time on Stu's offense because I want to get to his defense, but I don't like that decision, especially when you have him pairing a ton of his minutes with Ron Holland. It defeats the whole purpose of playing a spacer with Ron Holland if you're then going to space Ron Holland and then roll the spacer. It's bleep backwards. It doesn't make any sense to do so. But along with this, Stu still made a big-time play offensively. I don't like the fact that he's not shooting threes. I don't like the fact that they want him rolling to the rim, but whatever. We'll talk about that at a later date. Stu's defense. If Stu is... It's as simple as this. If Stu is going to play this well defensively, you have to close with him. If the Detroit Pistons are going to look this much better with him on the floor defensively, you have to close games with him. You just have to. It is what you just have to do it. I don't care about the politics involved. I don't care about where so-and-so was drafted, even though they weren't really drafted too far away from each other. I don't care about the investment. I don't care. Isaiah Stewart, if they're going to be this much better with him on the floor defensively, there is a big-time argument to be had that he needs to be closing games. The broadcast brought up on the screen during the game. The Detroit Pistons are over 20 points better with Stu on the floor defensively so far this year. I'm going to say it again. Over 20 points per game or per 100 possessions better with Isaiah Stewart on the floor defensively than when he's off. That is such a wide margin that it's impossible to ignore. It's absolutely impossible to ignore that. And along with this, Jalen Duren fouled out of this game in 11 minutes. It was not his greatest game. It was not a very good game for Jalen Duren. And so far this year, he hasn't been very good defensively. I do think he's being more active as a rim protector, or at least trying. I do see that. I think he's improved somewhat as an interior defender, or at least his activity as an interior defender. I do think he's done that. However, he's still struggling defensively. In this game, he struggled just to stay out of foul trouble and ended up fouling out in 11 minutes of play. That just can't happen. But it didn't matter because Stu then played 34 minutes, and the Pistons were a plus 18 in his minutes, by far a team high. The next closest was Cade at plus 12. Isaiah Stewart, when he was on the floor, the Pistons shut down defensively. They went switch across the board. He constantly switched on Tyrese Maxey, held his own, and he had 11 rebounds in this game along with 3 blocks and the steal. He didn't need to score. They don't need him to score. They just need a big man who can defend for them. And I do think, I will say this, I think him being told to roll all the time will come up as a problem more often if you close with him. Because I think teams will live with that and start challenging you to just do that instead. They'll start to collapse and get rid of the spacing. So I do think that will be an adjustment that they'd have to make in the future if they do continue to close with him. But defensively, I mean, I just don't know how... You can't realistically sit here and say that he doesn't give you the best chance to win at the end of games. And look, Jalen Duren, he is immensely talented offensively. Immensely talented offensively. He is such a tantalizing player offensively. His potential is crazy offensively. You see it. He's crazy athletic. You see what there is to love about Duren's future and his ceiling. Like, I don't need to pitch that anymore. I think everyone knows that. He is a tantalizing talent offensively. However, if defensively it's going to be this large of a gap between him and Stu, and the team is going to perform this large of a gap between him and Stu, I mean, I don't know how else to say this then they're just better with Stu on the floor and closing minutes. They're going to be better with Stu on the floor if that's going to be the case. Maybe Duren makes this big jump at some point during the season. It's only game 5. Maybe you start to see him play better defensively. He makes this improvement. He makes this leap. And if that's the case, that'd be tremendous because he is the perfect fit with the Pistons offense as a pick and roll lob threat and a guy who can play make. He is that perfect match on offense. Defensively, though, I think you're seeing that for this team, while Duren is the perfect fit for them for what they want to do offensively, the bigger impact is felt on wins and losses based on how well they perform defensively at that position. And Stu being nearly 20 points better when they're on the floor with him defensively is crazy. It's crazy. And if you watch this game, it clearly matched the eye test. The team was performing at such high levels with Stu on the floor when they were able to just switch across the board defensively. It's so noticeable. So, and this is nowhere near me trying to say you should be done with Duren. That's not the case. If they want to continue to start Duren, I understand it. But closing games in the fourth quarter, it's going to be hard to make the argument that Duren should close over Stu, especially if they run into games like we've seen so far this year when they're struggling defensively. They find a solution like they did again in the Boston game. They find a solution by switching across the board with Stu. They get a bunch of stops, and then you go back to Duren and try to run the same scheme, and it doesn't work. If that continues to happen, it's going to get even more loud, and it's going to become even more of an uncomfortable conversation to have because it's going to become even more evident that it needs to happen. So maybe in the future games, next game that they play, that doesn't come up. Maybe they're playing so well offensively with Duren and forcing enough turnovers defensively to where that's not popping up, and maybe they won't go against teams every single night that can exploit it to the degree that like Boston was, or to the degree that Indiana was. Like, they won't go against that every night. However, so far from what we've seen, the team is infinitely better with Stu on the floor, and defensively that is, infinitely better with him on the floor defensively, and I think that's what they need. I talked about it all offseason. I think what they need out of their center position is a defender. And in all the small sample sizes we continue to get, that's what it tells us. Last year, the first few games of the year where everyone thought it was the change of the year. Why was it? Because Duren was dominating defensively. That's why. It wasn't because they were scoring crazy offense. It was because they were dominating defensively teams. Now this year, they win this game. They look good in stretches against Boston to take that lead in the second half. They look good against Indiana to take the lead in the second half. When do all these stretches come off of? These stretches come off of, with Stu on the floor, being able to switch across the board, play defense, and lock down for a stretch, you gain momentum. That's where all of these stretches have happened. So I just don't see what the argument could be for not closing with Stu until, one, you can play drop coverage like they seem to want to do with Duren against a team that you can get away with it against in the fourth quarter, or Duren's playing so well defensively and offensively that you have to close with him. Until that happens, the difference between him and Stu defensively on the impact on the team is just astronomical, and you can't ignore that. You just simply can't. It's too big of a difference through the numbers that we're seeing, and from watching it eye test wise, it's too big of a difference to ignore. So I think the Pistons are going to need to close with Stu moving forward until Duren gives them a reason to otherwise. Because I just think they're so much better defensively with them on the floor. They're a better team in the fourth quarter when that happens. So let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter @KukaHill. Do you guys believe that the Detroit Pistons should be closing with Isaiah Stewart, or should they stick with Jalen Duren to close games despite the massive difference it seems from the start of the year defensively? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter @KukaHill. Coming up, there is a part of Cade's game that if this is a legit jump we are seeing, good luck, NBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Again, I will say, if you're watching this on YouTube, scan that QR code, get taken to our link tree where you can subscribe to our Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. You can subscribe to our Insiders program. Also, if you listen to this on a podcast, you can also hit the description down below and be taken right to all those places as well. You can subscribe, like I said, to Locked On Pistons daily newsletter to go along with your Locked On Pistons daily podcast. Along with that, you can be a part of our Insider program. Subscribe over there. You'll be able to text one-on-one with me at any time. If you don't have social media, I can be your Pistons Insider. I will be texting you anytime there's any Piston news I see, any Piston rumors I happen to see, anything Pistons related, will get a text right to your phone. You don't have to go searching for it. Also, you can text one-on-one with me, ask me any questions, talk with me about anything, get to know me a little bit more, and I can get to know you guys a little bit more just by texting one-on-one with this Insiders program. So click those links down below, help to support the channel, help to support me, and also it'll be a fun thing for you guys, and also more content for you guys. Again, link down below, or you can obviously text us over at, I just lost the number, where'd it go? Oh, now it's up on the screen. I can just read it from here. 313-914-6528. This part of Cade's game, if it is a realistic jump, if this part of his game has taken the leap that I've been begging for it to take, if it takes the leap that Ashton told us when he came on the podcast in the offseason and said, we're really working on it. We know he has to bring that from college to the NBA. We know he has to do it. We've been training it religiously. Ashton told me all offseason on the podcast, texted me. I've talked with Ashton all summer. He told me nonstop, Koo, don't be worried about it. It's going to be here. Koo, don't be worried about it. It's going to be here. We're working on it religiously. He knows he needs this. He knows it's a big part of the game. He's doing what he can to make it happen. You're going to see it this year. He reassured me all offseason. And was I a little bit worried? Just a tad. Because, look, it's not all the time that you get to see players make a jump. You want to see them make jumps, and then sometimes they just don't. So was there a little worry to me? Of course. Despite all the reassurance, I was concerned. Not concerned. Maybe not concerned is the right word, but, just a little worried, hoping to see it. And so far to start the season, it has absolutely delivered. Cade's pull-up three-point shooting, his off-the-dribble three-point shooting, his step-back three-point shooting has absolutely arrived in the first 5 games. Now, you need to see it play out for the whole year. But if this part of Cade's game is here, it's going to be so incredibly hard for the NBA to guard him. He had an absolutely nasty step-back three over Andre Drummond in this game on a switch. It was filthy. I thought he was going to get it blocked because Drummond did a really good job contesting it. He got enough arc on it and just all net. It was so filthy. If he can bring that consistently to his game, it changes how defenses are going to guard him. You can't go over screen. You can't try to go into a slight drop and then slowly switch into him, which what I see a lot of teams try to do. They'll have the top guy trail or his defender trail over, and as the roller goes, they'll have like a soft switch happen where the trailer just follows the roller and then the big will come up. So kind of because it doesn't seem like they're really afraid of him hitting a pull-up three, so they're okay getting a late switch out onto him. And he's made them pay throughout the first 5 games of the year. Tonight, he shot 4 of 8 from 3. I believe 3 of those were pull-up threes. I know one of them was a step back. I know another one was off a pull-up 3 at the top of the key. I believe the other one was a pull-up 3 from the right wing as well. So that is absolutely going to change Cade's game. We saw it all the time in college from him. That's been the talk. His pull-up three-point shooting in college was there. It was filthy. Why isn't it in the NBA? Why hasn't he been able to translate it to the NBA? And Ashton told us on the podcast. He's told me this personally. Obviously, the easy answer was the shin injury. He was dealing with that shin injury. It was hurting his ability to get elevation on his jump shot, get arc on his jump shot, and it was really hampering him. And this last offseason was the first fully healthy offseason where he has all offseason just train, not worry about rehabbing, just all offseason just to train. And through the first 5 games of the year, man, you're seeing it. You're absolutely seeing it from him, and that's going to change everything for him. That's going to change everything for him and the Detroit Pistons. In this game, Cade shot 6 of 15. I believe he missed 3 shots in the fourth quarter. At one point, he was 6 of 12, I believe, and then he missed the last 3 shots he took. Despite that, he was able to score 22 points, be a reasonable efficient scorer. Why is that? Because he hit 4 of 8 threes, 50% from the three. And he got to the free throw line, guys, 6 times and made all 6 free throws. If you are able to hit threes and draw free throws, even when you struggle on your pull-up midi, even when you struggle on your post fadeaways, it won't matter because you have that to rely upon. That will keep you as an efficient scorer. That's why these guys that you watch, these stars that you see that can shoot 2 of 14 in a game, end up with 25 points and still be efficient, still have a high true shooting percentage. Why is that? Because they're able to hit threes, or they're able to get to the free throw line when their shot is not falling. And that's been the thing that's held Cade back, is that when his pull-up shooting in the mid-range is not falling, when he's having an off night on that, when he's not able to just get easy looks to the rim, and he's struggling at that for a night. Every other elite scorer in the NBA then says, okay, I have to get free throws. And they get 8 to 10, 12 free throws and end up with 25 points on 12 shots and become still incredibly efficient. For Cade, it just hasn't been there for him. When he struggles, it's just over with because he hasn't been able to draw free throws. But I will say there was a few drives tonight. He should have got even more calls. The refs just hate him. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Refs hate him. But either way, my point is tonight, he got to the free throw line 6 times. He hit 4 of 8 from 3. So despite the fact that he shot, 2 of 7 on 2s tonight, he still was efficient from the floor and led the Pistons to victory, was plus 12 on the night, because that completely changes everything. The ability to hit pull-up threes changes everything. The ability to get to the free throw line changes everything about you as a scorer. And the Pistons got that from Cade tonight. Man, I'm telling you, if he's able to hit these pull-up threes, these step-back threes for the rest of the year, good luck, man. Like, seriously, good luck for the NBA. The Pistons are going to win a lot of games if that's the case. They're going to win a lot more games than people think if that's the case. Also, before I wrap up this podcast, I didn't get to talk about him in this episode. We will talk about him in a future episode, probably the next one, because he is having such a great start to the season. Actually, I'll guarantee you guys this. We'll talk about him again next episode. Jaden Ivey. Let's shout out Jaden Ivey real quick. 23 points on 9 of 17 shooting. He shot 3 of 7 from deep. Got to the free throw line only twice tonight, but played really well. He was the main defender a lot of times on Tyrese Maxey. I'm not going to sit here and say he did a good job. Tyrese Maxey scored 32. However, the effort and the amount that Ivey is locked in is at a higher mark on defense than at any other point of his career. And he's also putting it together offensively. He still sometimes drives into too many people, but like I've said, that you take those because if you don't get those plays, you don't get the crazy finishes. You don't get the crazy get to the rim and crazy outlet pass to a corner. You don't get those plays if you don't let him sometimes, have a tough drive to the rim that results in a turnover. That's the kind of thing that you have to live with. You just want to minimize those, and he's done that. He's hitting his threes to start the year, 3 of 7 in this game. He's playing extremely well. Again, I told you guys this in the last episode, and then we'll wrap this up. The biggest thing to start this year was, can Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey play together? And not only have they played together to start this year, they have absolutely made each other better. They are thriving with each other. And look, I don't mean this quite literally, so don't take it too serious, but the Pistons will lose 10 straight. Now still feel good because the biggest question is being answered. Those two guys are playing off each other really well, and they're both playing extremely well. So that's all that mattered, really. Again, not being quite literal, but you guys get what I'm saying. But that's all I've got for you guys today on Locked On Pistons Podcast. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, scan the QR code to subscribe to the Locked On Pistons Daily Newsletter and the Insider Program monthly. If you listen to this on a podcast platform, again, description down below, you will get the links to all that stuff for you as well. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until next time, peace out. And obviously, like I always tell you guys, please stay safe out there. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.